The reality checks keep coming, this time for Swedish car manufacturer Volvo. They've abandoned their target to produce only electric vehicles by 2030. Chief Executive Jim Rowan insists, "We are resolute in our belief that our future is electric. However, it is clear that the transition to electrification will not be linear and customers and markets are moving at different speeds." That's one way of putting it. Registrations of EVs across the European Union dropped by nearly 11% in July, according to the European Automobile Manufacturers Association. The UKN is also pushing ahead, though, with its plan for all new cars to be fully electric and zero emission by 2035, but only 3% of cars in the UK last year fit those requirements. The reality checks are coming, but I'm not sure if the governments are listening.
Well, we've had Volvo, which is actually a Chinese company now, Mercedes, Volkswagen, the biggest car company in the world. They've all said, no, we're not going to go down the electric path. Even Bentley, who are well known for their super duper fast sports cars, have said, we're not going electric. Now, what has happened is that the elites have been telling them that we're going to go electric. Oh, it's going to be a wonderful world. But the market is saying something very different. And people are saying, no, we don't want electric. We don't want the stress of buying an electric car, having to travel a few hundred kilometres and being worried whether we can charge up all the time. So the market is speaking. The market is saying, if you elite people want to have ideas about electric cars filling our roads, you're nuts. Electric cars are not a very good idea. We tried them in the 1840s. They didn't work. We tried them from about 1900 to 1920. Yes, they worked for very short distances, but if you want to travel anything more than, say, 50 kilometres a day, you're taking big risks driving electric. The market is not stupid.
Now, let's talk about Victoria. The Victorian government are walking back their hardline stance on gas. They will allow Victorians to continue cooking with gas. The ban on gas stovetops has now been excluded from their net zero roadmap. Ian, the internal polling on this must have been grim for them to do this backflip. But I do note that the hapless Victorian Libs went to the last election really not talking about this at all. You would have thought that would have been a clear policy platform for them to say, we'll allow you to keep cooking with gas, when Labor were about to take that option away from Victorians. But now it seems that Labor themselves are going to backflip on that policy.
Well, it's terrible to talk about Victoria. They're just killing themselves, be it the Labor or be it the Liberals. Talk to any chefs in Victoria. They want to cook with gas. They don't want to cook on an induction stove. We hear the Victorian politicians saying, oh, we've got no gas and we've got to restrict it. Absolute codswallop. Yes, the Bass Strait field is decreasing in the gas output, but there is a large amount of onshore gas. I've seen the flaring of gas wells onshore in Gippsland. Victoria is a victim of its own policies, and these policies are on both sides of politics. Victoria's got stacks of gas. Victoria's got stacks of energy, and they've only got to have sensible policy. So Victoria is in the habit of kicking own goals and continues to do it. The people think differently, which is why the government has changed its view. The government is not leading, it's actually following.
It is, but I've got to say, this is a government that doesn't too often walk back from its pledges, no matter how stupid they may be. So for them to execute this backflip, I've got to say, there must be great resistance amongst the Victorian public. They must have really seen some ugly numbers for them to do this. So we're grateful for that. Professor Ian Plimer, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you for having me.